residents, U.S. veterinarians, and I know that a lot of Canadians, at least ones here on the island, right, they buy Canadian, they buy local. Not that that makes dry food better, but in regulatory wise, what are the differences
Oh,
between
absolutely.
Canada and the US?
Not a problem. So the question is, what about regulations in Canada?
Yeah.
Are they different than what this
Excellent
movie is
question.
discussing?
Excellent question.
And so it's actually really easy to answer. In the U.S., you saw the state of affairs, what it's like. In Canada here, the CFIA is not funded for pet food.
At all.
Period.
So that means
Now, Dean might talk to me about how they may inspect certain types of facilities,
Yeah.
should you be HACCP certified or so on. But that has nothing to do with pet food. That has to do with certain certifications that manufacturing facilities may go through, not with anybody governing pet food in Canada. Please clarify for me, Dean, and tell me how I'm wrong.
No, you're not.
Let's just stay there.
But then my question is it a good thing or a bad thing? You know, and what they're asking.
In Canada, the pet food industry is totally unregulated. By that I mean there is no law at any level that has any influence over what you feed your pet or what can be made and sold to feed your pet. Back in 2005, the CFIA and the Public Health Agency of Canada called a meeting in Ottawa, and they invited raw pet food manufacturers of the day and the people making smoked pig's ears and smoked bones. And the reason that they called the meeting was in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a child that died of salmonella poisoning related to pig's ears. And the story behind it goes is that the pig's ears were in a fruit basket in the store, and the kid picked it up, and they took it home, and the dog was chewing on it, and the kid picked it up and started sucking on it and got salmonella poisoning and died. And so the Public Health Agency of Canada determined that from that investigation that the whole basket had salmonella of the same type that the kid passed away from. So you would think that at that point that the rules would come from above and lock things down, but that's not what happened. They called this meeting and said, okay, as an industry, you guys now have to straighten up and fly right and make your own rules and make sure that you're doing things right and set your own set of guidelines. So from that, a bunch of manufacturers in the raw pet food domain got together, and we argued back and forth for about 2 years about what the rules would look like. And when it became apparent that a lot of people would have to make a large investment in documentation and inspections, and there was going to be people come in and look at their plant, they sort of scattered among the populace. A few of us went ahead and defined a set of guidelines to judge ourselves by that we thought were appropriate for making raw pet food. And that exists today, and there's guidelines that we put on the website and that kind of stuff. So the people can have their facility judged by. So the way it works is that they can hire a third-party inspections person from the human food business to come in and judge their facility against those rules. But there is no law requiring it. Okay? And so many don't because it's a costly venture. In discussions with people associated with CFIA, we went to CFIA meetings. There's a big push by CFIA over the last 5 years. It's called the Safe Food for Canadians Act that they've published and implemented over the last 5 years. We went to that, and what they were trying to do was get more human food manufacturers regulated and inspected. And we said, well, what about us? We want to be inspected too. And they said, well, you're pet food. We don't inspect you. So they're saying that because pet food is unregulated, they can't even come into our plant. And so unlike the US, where you have this AFCO organization that is developed by the industry to make a functional set of guidelines that are then enacted as law by proxy by local states. And that's what is missing in that conversation is that the local state laws will often write in the AFCO standard as the binding guideline for their law. And so that's where people get the idea that AFCO is a legislative body and has some power, but it doesn't. Okay.
I think the issue with salmonella, what I find is that it's not talking, in anything that I see with issues of salmonella, it's not about how the animal processes it. It's the danger to humans, but they don't really spell it out that way whenever, like in the US, when they're recalling things because of salmonella, it's not saying, well, there's a danger to humans, this is how you can, mitigate that or avoid it. It's just sort of like, it will kill you. That's the tone of it.
And just to add to that, ultimately, we don't treat kibble with the respect it deserves. It requires food-safe handling techniques, just like everything else in your kitchen that potentially is hazardous, like meat. So don't put it in the same container every single solitary time, because that's called cross-contamination. Wash your hands, wash the bowls, wash the dishes, wash everything, just like you would with everything else in your kitchen, because it's a meat-based product. Well, even if it's, if it's just flavored, it's not really a meat-based product. Now we all know that, don't we?